Have you ever seen a sports car that can dance? Let's take a look at how it performs on the track. A sleek, stylish sports car speeds toward the camera, only to swerve off the track amid gasps and laughter from the crowd. The driver, clearly frustrated, jumps out and starts yelling. I slammed the brakes at 150 miles per hour, but it just wouldn't stop. This quirky disco dancing car that charges off course is none other than BYD's high-priced electric supercar, the Yangwang U9, boasting a hefty 2.6-ton weight and a price tag of 1.68 million yuan. As BYD's most expensive model, one can't help but wonder how its mid-range or entry-level models hold up. This is the BYD Song. I think BYD needs to make some improvements. The rear crash beam is as thin as paper. Last time my car was rear-ended, and there was barely any crash beam here. What's the point of having one if it falls apart at the slightest impact? At the very least, it should come with a proper crash beam for this model. It wouldn't add much to the cost, and since BYD's sales keep going up every month, adding a better crash beam is necessary. Another issue is that I found rust on the back interface when I removed the crash beam. I'm in the auto painting business, and this part was likely assembled without proper acid treatment, which caused the rust. There was no rust proofing or corrosion protection. This area needs improvement. Critics argue that with BYD's position as one of China's largest automakers, making slight improvements to its vehicles like adding proper rust protection would barely impact costs. They question why such a prominent company risks negative exposure and consumer complaints over these apparent shortcuts. BYD is good for business. If it weren't for BYD, a lot of us working on new energy cars would be out of work. This Song model can't fast charge because of a damaged electronic control unit that costs around 3,000 yuan to fix. The C5 model has a leaking battery with repairs exceeding 5,000 yuan. Another yuan model has a charging issue, and repairing its battery pack costs 7 to 8,000 yuan. In models like the Yuan, Qin, and E5, once the battery reaches a certain mileage, charging issues often start showing up because of faults in the battery's module wiring. My solution is to replace these problematic parts with custom-made components to keep everything running smoothly. Despite helping many owners bypass BYD's official service, the technician now faces a lawsuit from BYD, allegedly due to his critical remarks about the company's quality and media appearances. If we told you that BYD might be on the brink of financial trouble, would you believe it? In the second quarter of this year, BYD surpassed Honda and Nissan to become the world's 7th largest automaker in global car sales. Last year, BYD sold 700,000 units in the same quarter, ranking 10th globally. Within a year, it leapt over Honda, Nissan, and Suzuki and is closing in on Ford, the 6th largest with 1.14 million units sold. With such impressive figures and strong growth, how could BYD be at the risk of collapse?
靠吹牛是没有办法领先的。
A concerned individual familiar with the Chinese automotive sector recently voiced his concerns, stating that he had reviewed a major automaker's financial report and found it alarming. According to BYD's mid-year report, he noted the company's debt had surpassed 500 billion yuan, with a debt-to-asset ratio exceeding 77%. He added, to put it in perspective, Evergrande's debt ratio before its crisis in 2019 was around 77.9%. We all know what happened to Evergrande. Based on these numbers, BYD might need to sell close to 1 billion vehicles to fully pay off its debt, a nearly impossible feat. He stated that, based on the data he reviewed, it would take BYD approximately 30 years to clear its debts, requiring the sale of about 100 million vehicles to cover the financial gap. He added that BYD's debt ratio is exceedingly high, indicating that the company's financial health is not as strong as it appears and the situation is far from the positive image often portrayed. A recent analysis of BYD's financial data suggests that with an annual sales rate of 3 million vehicles and reported profit of 30 billion yuan, the analyst warns that if government subsidies were discontinued, BYD would face a nearly insurmountable challenge, selling close to 20 billion vehicles to cover its existing debts, a feat that, at its current sales rate, could take hundreds of years. BYD's sales have topped 30,000 units, once again leading to new energy vehicle sales charts. But how did they do it, folks? Just take a look. This is how. Do you think they could still be number one any other way? Cars registered back in 2019 are still sitting here with their protective films unpeeled, and now the grass is growing around them like the cars themselves are sprouting from the ground. How could they not be number one? It turns out that previous reports from online sources about BYD's inflated sales were accurate. Many of these cars were indeed sold straight to the fields. This strategy appears aimed at securing government subsidies. These unsold cars are essentially parked in remote areas to artificially boost sales figures, potentially just to claim subsidies. Without these subsidies, BYD might struggle to stay afloat this year. According to BYD's recent financial report, as of September 2024, the company holds total assets of 764.3 billion yuan, marking an 11% year-on-year increase, while its debt rose to 595.5 billion yuan with a debt-to-asset ratio of 78%. With close to 600 billion yuan in debt, BYD faces annual interest expenses estimated at around 30 billion yuan. Some suggest that BYD relies heavily on these subsidies to meet its financial obligations, possibly resorting to placing unused inventory in obscure locations to maximize government support. As the only profitable company among China's top 10 new energy automakers, where exactly does BYD's money go? According to BYD's official reports and media coverage, the company claims a substantial focus on research and development (R&D), with annual R&D spending reaching 8.9 billion yuan. Considering that BYD's actual annual profit is only around 1 billion yuan, this 8.9 billion R&D budget is quite high. However, a closer look shows that BYD's R&D focus leans more toward rapidly developing new models and designing impractical smart entertainment systems rather than improving product quality or craftsmanship. For instance, BYD introduced the world's first dancing supercar, the Yangwang U9. While visually striking, these innovations don't necessarily enhance the quality of the vehicles. Instead, they appear to be aimed at grabbing market attention with flashy gimmicks. Typically, for an established automaker, it takes 3 to 5 years or even over a decade to develop a new car model. The process includes numerous stages, from planning, designing, and component selection to rigorous testing phases such as durability, safety, and performance assessments before a vehicle is deemed ready for mass production. Each stage requires substantial time and refinement to meet real-world usability standards. Tesla, for example, has released only 5 models in the past 20 years, yet it consistently ranks first globally in terms of both total sales and per-vehicle profit. Meanwhile, in the same period, BYD has developed over 50 models, with some models taking less than 6 months from concept to production. In response, some netizens remarked, quote, "They're not making cars, they're just after quick money. A new model comes out every few months and most haven't even undergone adequate road testing. These electric vehicles in China haven't had the time for proper testing, shifting the risks onto ordinary consumers to test for them," unquote. BYD's rapid model turnover seems solely aimed at capturing every market segment, bypassing costly testing phases which leads to wasteful spending and internal inefficiencies. This frequent upgrading also results in previous models facing immediate deprecation and slow sales, requiring further investments in design and production. Although these cars appear new and stylish, the underlying craftsmanship often lacks quality. With the US restricting China's access to advanced tech, sourcing automotive-grade chips has become increasingly difficult for BYD, forcing the company to rely on domestic alternatives. This approach raises production costs significantly and, in some cases, compromises vehicle reliability and safety, especially within smart driving systems. This trend toward low-quality products increases after-sales service costs, with high volumes of warranty claims straining BYD's resources and eroding customer satisfaction. A vicious cycle forms, where BYD becomes increasingly reliant on government subsidies to maintain its public image. If subsidies dry up amid worsening economic conditions, the company could face an immediate financial collapse. BYD, as a major player in China's new energy sector, represents the broader industry reality. Most of China's new energy vehicle companies are unprofitable. Huawei, for instance, loses around 30,000 yuan on each vehicle sold. Unlike Huawei, BYD lacks state-owned or military-industrial backing and faces an alarming debt ratio of 77%, painting a bleak outlook. Observers familiar with Chinese political operations point out that the media has highlighted BYD's debt ratio in a way reminiscent of the early signs of Evergrande's collapse. In late 2021, Evergrande's default drew widespread attention, with reports suggesting a debt ratio nearing 78%, though the true figure was closer to 99.8%. Eventually, in August 2023, Evergrande declared bankruptcy. Unlike Evergrande, which was primarily a tool for government-linked profiteering without proprietary technology or brand value, BYD began with technical expertise in lithium battery production. Since entering the automotive industry in 2003, BYD leveraged this experience in hybrid vehicles and gained support from prominent investors, including American businessman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, who acquired shares in 2008. However, since BYD's shift to focus on the fully electric vehicle market under the Chinese Communist Party (CCP's) strategic push, the company's financial stability has declined. Despite annual sales growth, profits have stagnated and debt has continued to climb, reducing net assets after accounting for debt. From 2022 onward, Buffett has gradually reduced his stake in BYD. By July this year, Berkshire Hathaway's holdings dropped to 4.94%, just under the 5% threshold which allows for sales without public disclosure. With the recent surge in debt ratio concerns, BYD's future appears uncertain. Should BYD, seen as one of China's most competitive new energy companies, face a downfall, it could trigger a domino effect across the entire industry. Many of these new forces in the new energy vehicle sector transition from electronics or IT into automotive manufacturing, often without the expertise or technology needed to produce quality vehicles. They believed incorporating the internet and smart tech would suffice for a new energy vehicle, relying heavily on government subsidies to sustain operations. This market disconnect has already led to a glut of unsold vehicles, intensifying domestic price wars and reducing profit margins. Simultaneously, government subsidies have nearly dried up. Despite the CCP's vision of electric vehicles as a strategic tool for global influence, the harsh reality suggests that China may no longer be able to support the new energy sector indefinitely. Rumors have emerged of a failed 10 trillion yuan government bailout plan. As China's new energy vehicle industry approaches a breaking point, BYD's potential collapse could signal the beginning of a sector-wide crisis.